So I forgot to talk about this amongst all of the trade deadline stuff. Did the Grizzlies get a good return for Marc Gasol? The return was Jonas Valanciunas, CJ Miles, Delon Wright, and a 2024 second-round pick. I think the initial reaction that I saw on Twitter was that this was a one-sided move just because none of the guys that the Grizzlies got back were big names, right? I mean, Raptors fans would tell you that Valanciunas is awesome as a backup big who has gotten better defensively to the point where you can't attack him in the pick and roll as much as you could a couple years ago. He's certainly better than the Enes Kantors and Greg Monroes of the world. His post offense is pretty good. Post defense is pretty all right. He's one of the best rebounders in the league. His jump shot has shown signs. And he's only like 26 years old, so he's got a chance to still get better. And he's one of those players where you can bank on his potential, but you can also put him out there right now with Mike Conley and Jaren Jackson, and he can give you good basketball. And I think the hope with him is, with the Grizzlies, is they can re-sign him after his contract is up after next season, and probably to a smaller amount of money than he's being paid right now. Then you get Delon Wright, a guy who, he's a big point guard. He's 6'5", 6'6", something like that. I think he shows good signs defensively, and he can make athletic plays, and I feel like he's kind of the next step for a guy like DeJounte Murray. I mean, the ultimate step for a guy like Murray and like Delon Wright is if he can become an awesome shooter, and I don't know if that's the case, but still being this big guard who can defend a few positions, go off the dribble a decent amount of the time. I wouldn't run my entire offense through the guy. I think Mike Conley still deserves that role, but Wright can certainly do stuff. And he never got the opportunity in Toronto. I mean, he averaged like 21 minutes a game in 2018, but for this season he was playing about 18 minutes a night, and between Lowry, Kawhi, DeRozan, Fred VanVleet, the guy was never allowed to really have the ball and do stuff in the pick and roll and have stuff thrown to him in transition and things like that. So there's a chance that Delon Wright could prove to be a much better player than what he was allowed to show in Toronto, and I think the Grizzlies are banking on him improving, and I think there's a chance for him and Conley to play together. Because Wright is a tall dude, I think he can defend a lot of two guards, and then offensively, given that Wright, sure, he's not a shooter, but Mike Conley is, that could still work with spacing and all that, and that might be a pretty good 1-2 punch return for the players you got. Again, not marquee names, but I think Valanciunas can be an awesome center for Mike Conley, a lot younger than Marc Gasol, and I think Delon Wright has potential to get better. CJ Miles is whatever. He was just a throw-in in the deal, pretty much. And now, I think what the Grizzlies have on their hands is they're in a position where, sure, they're not one of the better teams in the league, and I'm talking like next season at this point. And they might not even be a playoff team. Might be borderline. It'll depend on Jaren Jackson's jump, how good Valanciunas is, things like that. But what they're in a position to do now is they can have a team that could at least be respectable while also having young players that they can buy into. Delon Wright, Jaren Jackson, of course, who I, like many people, believe he could end up being probably the second best player in this draft class. I mean, DeAndre Ayton has been awesome. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been very good. And there's other guys there, the Wendell Carters of the world. We'll see what happens with Mo Bamba, Trae Young, Bagley, all this. But Jackson's defensive instincts, combined with what he's showing on offense, could equal out to some pretty special things down the road. So that's, of course, great, and they still could get their draft pick this season. It is top 8 protected. Right now they have the 6th worst record in the league, so they're definitely pushing it. But if they get that pick this year, then, assuming that they nail the pick, which we don't know if they will, they could very well draft the worst guy out of the top 8. At the same time, they could also hit a home run. They already did with Jackson. Could happen again. Then you've got Jaren Jackson, the guy you drafted, Delon Wright, who didn't get enough opportunity in Toronto, and Valanciunas, who I don't think has hit his ceiling yet, And I think Mike Conley has a chance to age pretty well, given that he's a smart guy who is a good shooter, good ball handler, and all that stuff. And he's gotten better as he's gotten older. That could be a pretty good position to be in. Now, I know the thought could be, well, tear the whole thing down, get as many picks as you can, and go the process route. But, I mean, it's been said a million times, if the Grizzlies do that, then they may never recover from that in terms of revenue and all that. So I guess it then makes sense to be like, all right, well, we'll make a move where we can get a little younger, but still remain respectable so people will still come to the games and there's still a general excitement around the team, even if they did trade the best player in franchise history. So with all of that being said, and of course because of Marc's age and contract to where you were not going to get an amazing return for the guy, I think the Grizzlies did okay here. I guess the best thing possible would have been if they could have got a first-round pick out of it, but given that the Raptors already owe one to the Spurs, so I don't know if that would have been realistic. It's a not bad return. It could not go well. I mean, maybe Delon Wright really isn't that good. Perhaps Valanciunas can play, but doesn't really change the needle that much. Maybe Conley ages a little faster than they and I envision. He has had some health problems, of course. The one guarantee is that Jaren Jackson's going to be awesome. So they at least have that going for them. Now, if we can talk about the rest of the team a little bit. In terms of young talent they still have, they do have Dillon Brooks as well. I mean, I'm putting all this stock into Jackson and the guy they're going to draft in Delon Wright. Dillon Brooks can make shots, and he's out for this season with a toe injury. So hopefully that doesn't become a trend for him, but he's 6'6". He shot 36% from 3 in his rookie season. He played a lot as a rookie. He played every game. He put in nearly 30 minutes a night, and his efficiency wasn't terrible. The advanced stats actually liked him a little bit, which is pretty rare for rookies. I mean, I know we've gotten our Lukas of the world and Mitchells and Tatums and Kuzmas who have walked in day one and been really good. Ben Simmons is another one. But I think once you get past the stars, it is still normal for rookies to be negatives, and for Dillon Brooks to not be a disaster in his rookie year was pretty impressive. So I do like him a lot. There's still Kyle Anderson, who can just be a constant, nice role player for them on a pretty decent contract of $9 million a season. And then there are some other young guys, and who knows if any of them hit or whatever. But yeah, I think the Grizzlies are in an okay situation, and depending on how they go forward and how they draft, and if they get fortunate with how Conley ages, then they could transition out of this period right now where they're not good and potentially be the best that they've been in a while if Jaren Jackson can pop, if Delon Wright can go to another level. Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself, so that'll do it for the Grizz.